Hey everyone, how are you all doing? In today's episode, I'm going to talk about 6 iconic Superman movies that were canceled before they could be made. And trust me, if these movies had been released, they could have taken Superman's cinematic journey to the next level. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the video. A new era of Superman is about to begin with James Gunn's Superman movie releasing this year, and despite the popularity of this character, Superman's live-action movies have been quite few and limited. But did you know that many iconic Superman movies were almost made but eventually got canceled? And some of their details and behind-the-scenes stories are such that, as a Superman fan, you'll be left wondering what kind of impact these Superman versions would have had on the audience if they were introduced. The series of canceled Superman movies began when the original Christopher Reeve Superman films started flopping. Superman ended with Superman 4. There was an idea for Superman 5, but because Superman 4 got such a bad response, lead actor Christopher Reeve himself refused to appear in these movies in the future, and he deeply regretted making Superman 3 and 4. That's why the 5th film never had a chance. After the early Superman movies flopped, people started losing interest in Superman, but during this time, DC did something in the comic books that had never been done before. In the 90s, they came up with The Death of Superman, which for the first time showed Superman dying in the comics. And because of that, Superman fans around the world started showing interest in him again. Warner Bros. Wanted to capitalize on this and hired writer Jonathan Lemkin to make a live-action movie based on it. But his version was so dark and strange that, according to him, the movie would start with Superman's death, where he saves Metropolis from Doomsday, and while dying, confesses his love to Lois Lane, and then dies. But the strange thing was that Superman's life essence, or you could say his soul, transfers into Lois Lane and she conceives a child. That child is born within 3 days and grows into a full-grown new Clark Kent. That's why this movie was called Superman Reborn. Just hearing this premise sounds so weird, Warner Bros. Never had the courage to move forward with it. To fix this hot mess and abomination, filmmaker, actor, and comic book nerd Kevin Smith was hired to write a new Superman story, and he wrote it under the title Superman Lives. But John Peters, who actually had the rights to Superman and was a big producer on this movie, was constantly interfering with Kevin Smith. He was asking to add things that could be sold as merchandise for extra profit. For example, he didn't want Superman to be shown in his suit or flying, but he did want to show him fighting a giant spider. Also, the main villain in the movie would have a sidekick dog that Superman would have to deal with. Of course, these things could sell well as toys, but critically, this movie didn't make any sense. That's why a new director, Tim Burton, was hired. Tim Burton was the same director who had previously directed Batman and Batman Returns for Warner Bros. And DC, both of which were critically and financially successful. As soon as Tim Burton came in, he started his own casting and began incorporating his traditional style, where Nicolas Cage was even cast as Superman, and around $25 to $30 million had already been spent on the production. Nicolas Cage himself was a huge Superman fan, but because of Tim Burton's style, the production cost was reaching $90 million at that time. Because of that, Warner Bros. Hired scriptwriter Dan Gilroy to try and bring the production cost under $100 million. But due to production delays and things not going according to Tim Burton's way, he left the movie for other projects. Later, Michael Bay and other directors were also considered to complete the film, but the movie was shelved and never got made. However, a small idea from this movie was hinted at in The Flash movie, where Nicolas Cage's CGI double is shown fighting a giant spider. So you could say that this story actually exists in the DC multiverse. After that came the turn of Batman vs. Superman. Yes, we finally saw Batman v Superman in 2016, but this earlier version wasn't too different from that one. And if everything had gone right, this explosive movie could have released back in 2002, written by Akiva Goldsman. In this story, Bruce Wayne actually retires from crime fighting, but is still haunted by many old memories. By this time, Alfred, Dick Grayson, and Jim Gordon had died. Bruce even tried to settle down, but Joker killed his wife. Batman is so psychologically broken that he starts blaming his friend Clark Kent for everything and ends up fighting him. Eventually, they both find out that Lex Luthor was behind all of it. And just like the modern Batman v Superman, they both team up to defeat Lex Luthor. At that time, Batman Begins hadn't come out yet, but even then, Christian Bale was being considered for Batman and Josh Hartnett for Superman, but the movie never got made. Apart from that, another new and strange Superman movie was in the works called Superman Flyby, to be directed by J.J. Abrams. He tried to present Superman's story in a very different way. In this version, Lex Luthor is not a businessman, but a CIA agent who hates aliens and somehow gains magical powers which he uses to try and match Superman. Eventually, in this movie, Superman is shown dying for a few moments, but after dying, he goes to a Kryptonian heaven where his parents and ancestors inspire him to return and continue his fight. And if you're wondering how I know all this if the movie was never made, well, this entire story was actually uploaded on a website called Ain't It Cool News. And people didn't like the story at all back then. If the movie had been made, actors like Josh Hartnett, Brendan Fraser, Paul Walker, and Ashton Kutcher were being considered. Most surprisingly, Henry Cavill had also auditioned for this movie, and back then even Amy Adams was being considered for Lois Lane. Anyway, finally we got to see a new Superman in 2006, but for those who are confused, let me tell you, it was actually a continuation of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and was a sort of soft reboot of that entire franchise. But the first movie didn't become that successful. With a budget of $204 million, it made only $391 million. If you include marketing and other expenses, this movie didn't generate profit. If it had, we might have seen a trilogy, where the second movie could have released around 2009 and may have featured Brainiac, Bizarro, and other Superman villains, but that never happened. Please tell us in the comments how you liked the 2006 Superman movie. Anyway, we've talked a lot about Superman here, but there was also a time when not just Superman, but the entire DC Universe was planned to be released even before the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A movie was going to release called Justice League, Mortal, to be directed by George Miller, and the writers were Michelle and Kieran Mulroney. A lot of amazing, iconic Justice League characters had already been cast for this movie, including Superman, and we would have seen a full live-action lineup just like the Justice League animated series. The story was very unique. It showed that Batman actually had a contingency plan for every Justice League member, which a villain uses to defeat the entire league. And Batman has to investigate and stop this alone. This movie was based on the Tower of Babel comic storyline, and eventually, many ideas from that comic and this canceled film were combined to make the 2012 animated movie Justice League Doom. The saddest part is that production had almost started, but due to the 2008 Writers Guild strike, it was shelved. And now only a few behind-the-scenes test images are available. So guys, that was today's video. I hope you really liked today's video. And if you did, please give it a like. Tell us in the comments which other superhero movies you know about that were never made. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, because we keep bringing awesome videos like this. I'll see you very soon in a new video. Until then, enjoy our other videos. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Till then, take care. Goodbye.